it's a really complex puzzle. Part of it is our buildings are lackluster. They just look a bit tired and old. It's not that they're bad buildings, and we've got some amazing architecture, but we've sort of been at a standstill, especially with the council, as far as earthquake strengthening. People don't want to put money into their bank, they want bang for their buck. So they don't want to put a bunch of money into painting up their building or fixing a facade if it's not going to give them any revenue, and they can't rent it or they can't do anything else because that work may mean nothing later. So that's the first thing, is getting people on board and getting the community behind it and explaining to the landlords that actually you have a role as well. When you give us something beautiful to look at, it makes people want to walk around. It encourages people to be in the city. So that's the first thing. The second thing is we need to try new things. We've been a bit stagnant, so we need more events. We need more reasons for people to come to the city center, and it's a change of perception. We've got some really great shops. This street that we're sitting on is kind of S Street or High Street, and this is where you'll get all your major retailers. Kelvin Street is really your high fashion area that you could view as your Invercargill version of Rodeo Drive. We've got lots of little independent shops as well that serve a purpose in being quite unique and unusual. We just don't highlight that. We have a really hard time saying, hey, Invercargill is a great place to live. So we need to change that.
I guess everybody can understand that it is like a domino effect. Once one positive thing starts to happen, the rest follows quite quickly. But what's the biggest obstacle to that vital first big step?
I think the biggest obstacle has just been people's attitude. I say we because I consider myself a Kiwi now because I've been here 5 years. They don't like to talk about themselves. They don't like to sell themselves to the rest of the world. They have this tall poppy syndrome, and if people do well, they tend to go, oh, I don't want people to think I'm doing too well. And so that's not attractive to the outside world, though. If we don't promote ourselves, and there's been this conversation, let's make Invercargill great again. No, let's remember why it's great again. It actually has always been great. There's so much going for it, but we tend to whinge about the things that aren't out of our control, like weather. Everyone complains about the weather. Well, guess what? We get 4 beautiful seasons down here. This is spring. We're sitting here on a spring day. You don't need a jacket. It's a cracker of a day.
Does it frustrate you sometimes knowing that success is so close, this change in attitude is just so tantalizingly close, but you're not quite there yet?
It does get a bit frustrating, but I'm really encouraged because since I've been in my role as the City Center Coordinator for the Invercargill City Council, the retailers have said, all right, we'll try anything. And sometimes they look at me like I'm completely crazy, like when I wanted to try trick-or-treating, and they thought, oh my God, okay, this is totally American. It went really well. Even though we ran out of lollies and things, the vibrancy in the city, the fact that people were coming in, the streets were filled with thousands of families. You don't get that every day. And having that made them think, oh, actually, maybe we can try something else. So as I have one small success, it's building trust with them, and then they start to think, okay, well, we've got to go outside of the box a little, maybe try something different. Because we tend to want people to fix things for us, but we can't. It's actually a relationship. I can help, and I can help enable, but I need them to come to the table and bring things as well.
I guess one of the plus points of being slightly behind is that you can really now shape the future in a more prescriptive way. But how do you stop Invercargill progressing to become the same as another 20 good New Zealand places? How do you keep it different when it succeeds?
Yeah, that is difficult, actually. I think we just always need to rely on and think about what makes us unique. We've got to remember what our unique features are and what are the things, like this is one of the friendliest places I've ever lived. It's the kind of place where you feel at ease with people, and they're very friendly. It may take a while to get to actually know people, but they wouldn't turn you away. They'll give you directions. It's the kind of place where, you feel safe. And in the evening, if you were out in the evening, it's not like a big city. So you have that genuineness about it, and I think that will shine through no matter how big Invercargill gets.
Some of the new councillors have talked about the challenge of keeping young people in Invercargill, and it seems the CBD, it's like the answer we keep coming back to. It seems like it's almost the answer to many of Invercargill's challenges.
It is a little bit, and I do want to keep youth here as well, and part of that is changing the CBD. I mean, I have friends that never come to town. And I say, well, where do you do your shopping? And they go, well, if I want to shop, I go when I wait till I go to Christchurch or Dunedin or one of these places. But it's about reinvigorating in them and making them remember what do we have here? Because we are the largest city in the southernmost part of New Zealand. And if we gave up, the next biggest town would be Dunedin, and we can't do that. This has to be a thriving community. We deserve it, and we need it. We need the population to stay up, and we need to be prideful in where we live. So I think part of it is getting the community to be involved in how we change. I want them to write it as well. I want them to write our future as much as us writing it for them. Through strategies that are actually built as a collaborative process.
I guess one of the scary things about the situation is just as success breeds success, failure can lead to further failure. And I'm thinking here particularly about Air New Zealand. They have to make a profit. If people don't fly enough to Invercargill, they reduce flights.
That's true.
And would a rejuvenation of the Invercargill CBD help Air New Zealand to fly here more often? Is that too ambitious?
Well, I would hope so. What I'm hoping is the more we have to show people, the bigger our events. Like, it would be great to have some bigger events like Burtman Row throughout the year, and do things that really attract people. Because yes, I think any city that's thriving and you're bringing up your population, as long as you're a desirable destination, of course Air New Zealand will look at us differently. It's not just the CBD though, it's really the whole community, and it's about getting all those neighborhoods involved and then making the CBD our place where we think of as, hey, that's the place I want to go have lunch. That's the place where I'm going to do a bit of shopping. That's where I might go get my nails done. It's having also those resources for people really centrally located. That's one thing that we're really looking at is what businesses do we need? What are we missing? So there's a lot of gaps to fill still. So I think the possibility is actually endless. I think we're at the prefaces of a really exciting beginning, because Invercargill is small enough that anything is possible. And we've got so many people here who want things to change. You've got shopkeepers who have been here 20 years that say, I'll try anything. I'm not on Instagram, but I'll try it. Why not? And you've got new counselors coming in and younger people who are actually really starting to be vocal about what they want for Invercargill, and that's what it's going to take. And there is yes, you can be too successful like Auckland, but really that's population, isn't it? What we've got a unique community. We've got amazing artists. We've got amazing performers, some of the best talent in all of New Zealand, but nobody knows that because we don't talk about it. So really what we need to do is talk about it. My next thing is maybe we'll ask Americans if they would like to come and become expats in Invercargill. We've got empty shops they can fill, and we're a friendly city, so why not start over?
You might be overwhelmed.
We might be, but that's embracing cultures. That is something that Invercargill hasn't necessarily done in the past, but is starting to do now, and it's becoming much more normalized, especially with SIT, to where you're finding that you're getting a really nice section of cultures in the city, and we've got these new spice shops opening and things like that, and to me that is so exciting, because that means we're embracing them and we're supporting them, and we're looking at diversity and change, and that's what we need, because change is how we grow and develop. Without change, we'll die.
One of the things I think is fascinating is that Queenstown is just 200 kilometres up the road,
Yeah.
2.5 hours drive, and yet it's so different. How do you take account of Queenstown in designing Invercargill's future?
I think what they've done is really, really good. I think they actually struggle in the opposite way as us. So Queenstown's biggest issue now is how do you provide a healthy, happy city for the locals who have grown up there their whole lives, and generations who now do not have affordable housing and don't feel good going into their city because it's not relaxed like this where you can find a place to sit and you feel shoved around on the sidewalks. They've got almost the exact opposite situation happening. So what I would take from them is, as we grow, I would look at what's worked well for them, especially with their pedestrianism and their case studies and how they've done markets and tried to tie unique points into who they are. That's how I will mimic what they've done. As far as growth, I don't think it's going to be a problem for a while. If we can just get a good 3 or 4 square blocks really thriving, every shop filled. And I think that's one of the other things I've learned from Queenstown is you've got to take it in smaller areas. You can't look at a huge map of 20 or 30 blocks and decide I'm going to fix all of that. It just doesn't happen like that. You've got to start with something small like a seed, and then it grows out, and that's where we will thrive. If we can start with that very small area of maybe a 4 square block radius, really focus on getting that to be a heart. Once your heart's beating, the rest will grow around it.